the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who I think are wonderful. The first one is divorce attorney Teresa Vieira. She is in North Carolina. She's a divorce attorney, arbitrator, certified mediator, and the founder of Modern Legal. Teresa is wonderful. She can handle divorce, child custody, child support, spousal support, domestic violence, termination of parental rights, adoption, and estate planning. I would highly recommend Teresa. She's extremely dedicated, really smart, and cares so much about her clients. If you want to learn more, go to modernlegalnc.com. I also want to recommend a wonderful team of mediators. Their names are Ellen Feldman and Brian James, and they are CEL and Associates. They mediate divorces in Illinois and Wisconsin. And what's so nice about Ellen and Brian, who I've known, by the way, for maybe 15 years, they have such a great reputation. They've been working together since 2007. And when you hire them, you get both of them in the session. So it's really nice to have a balance of a man and a woman, but also Ellen is a former practicing attorney and Brian is a parenting coordinator. So they come from two different backgrounds. They have really different perspectives and they're both great at what they do. If you want to learn more, go to celandassociates.com. When I got divorced, my kids were 3 and 5, really 4 and 2 when we got separated. Thinking about college was not something I was doing at that point in my life. And I'm kind of laughing because you're probably, if you're listening to this and you have young kids, you probably feel the same way. But today I want to talk about some things I want you to think about regardless of how old your kids are. And that is including college in your divorce agreement, which I did not and had to go back to post-divorce litigation a few times because of other things, but also because of college. I have a great guest for this. Her name is Vicki Vollweiler. Vicki, MBA and CDC, that's Certified Divorce Coach, is a college funding and financial aid expert, and she's the founder of her company, College Financial Prep. I think Vicki knows more about college than anyone I know. Hi, Vicki.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Good. Is that true, do you think?
Certainly more about the financial side than most people, yes.
Okay, so I want to tell my listeners, Vicki has had this business for 10 years. She's also a divorced mom who had to send her own kids to college. So she gets you. She understands. Vicki, don't you think people need to be thinking about this? Even like I said, if they're getting divorced and their kids are pretty young, it's not like, well, we'll worry about that later.
Definitely. My kids happen to be, I have 2 kids, they happen to be 10 years apart. So fortunately for me, and I also got divorced, my youngest one was 3. So fortunately for me, I had a little head start because I had the older one and I could see, what types of things were going to be coming down the pike to think about for my own divorce agreement. But yeah, I was definitely thinking about college and college costs and how that was going to be shared within the divorce agreement. Um, and it's very important to include no matter what age your kids are.
And Vicki, don't you feel like most people, because you've been through a divorce, when you're going through a divorce, you're thinking about today. You're not really future focused as I think half the people as much as you should be, because we're all just trying to survive and put out the fires that are in front of us now. But what's really important is to look ahead so you don't find yourself in post litigation like I was couple of times, and just kind of continuing to put band-aids on what needs to be fixed. Let's get the whole financial plan out on the table, and then, hopefully, of course, things in life change. We can't guarantee it, but you do the best you can with what you know now.
Definitely. I mean, my hope is that, parents, regardless what age their kids are, they're thinking about their finances, so they are prepared to live their best lives possible, as opposed to, "Oh, surprise, our child's going to college next year. How are we paying for all of this?" It's much better to plan than to just be reactive. I think there's a quote, I think it's from Ben Franklin, if you fail to plan no, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So make sure you get up
Okay.
and plan in advance.
Very smart, very smart. Okay. Now, I have a question before we get into any of this. What if people are listening and saying, "Well, I don't even know if my kids are going to go to college?" If you set up a 529 plan, which is the college planning account, and your child does not go to college, what else can it be used for? Can it be used for other kids? And how do you get out of it?
Okay, so first thing I'm gonna say, um, this is not my area of expertise. If anybody talks to me about 529 plans, I say, go talk to your financial advisor. But I'm going to answer this just as a mom, just because I had a 529 for my own kids. The 529 can be used for, it can be transferred to another child. It can be used by the parent themselves for education. It can be transferred to cousins. Um, you can
Do
take the
we know
money.
if it can be transferred to trade schools? Like,
I
let's
believe so. But
okay.
confirm it. Um, I'd wanna say confirm it with the school themselves, like, that like most trade
Yes.
schools, so, if you're talking to me about financial aid applications, I'm the expert. So, most trade schools, you can use the FAFSA for. So, I'm
Oh, I
assuming
didn't uh-huh.
I'm assuming if you can use the financial aid forms, FAFSA for trade school, that the 529 should qualify, but I don't know that definitively. So, I'm just
Okay. So any question about the 529, ask your financial advisor. They know the answers to all those questions. All right. So I want to get into why this conversation that we're about to have is so crucial. What is the benefit of putting college in a divorce agreement? And in the article you wrote about this for Divorced Girl Smiling, you stated several. So I'm going to read them and then you can explain. You say the first reason to include college in your divorce agreement is to avoid future conflicts. What can happen if you don't?
So, at bare minimum here, let me just go back for 1 second. So, what I like to say, because we were talking about the 529s and the financial advisors, so financial advisors help people save money for college. The difference in what I do is I help save money on the cost of college. So, just wanna differentiate that for everyone.
Okay, and before we go on, I'm glad you brought that up. In what ways?
So
College scholarships,
scholarships,
loans.
financial aid applications, filing appeals, and divorce and college planning is a huge area that I work on. Just because, you have that added layer of complexity. So either when people are going through a separation or maybe they've already been divorced for, umpteen years. But it's the working together and um, I don't do full blown mediation, but it's mediation in regards to college planning. So that's definitely my
Have
focus.
mediators and divorce lawyers ever called you with cases asking you your opinion?
Oh,
Mhm.
definitely. No, they refer to me often.
Okay, so I want to tell people listening, you can tell your divorce attorney about Vicky, or you can call Vicky yourself. Wish I would have known you, Vicky. Would have saved me so much money, I'm sure, and a lot of stress.
So let me just say this. So everybody knows. Does this happen all the time? No. But I've had clients, specifically divorced and separated clients. One just saved or is saving $100,000 on the cost of college because of the work we do. Another one who's divorced, ultimately by the end, they're saving $200,000. There's another student that I had because of their circumstances and their parents' divorce. I mean, they basically had a full free ride to Vanderbilt University. I mean, so the potential is there to, for large, large savings. Will it happen for every single, um, I'm using, will it happen for every single family? No, it's not going to happen for every single family, but depending on the situation, applying to the right schools, what both parents' financial circumstances are, yeah, it's definitely possible. So
Listen, Vicky, if you could have saved me 10,000 on school, I would be so happy,
right,
And
absolutely.
so, but we're also involved in our own lives and we don't have the time to research on how to save, and we're trying to work and make money and we're getting divorced at the same time, and that's why if you're willing to work with Vicky, she'll do it all for you. On that note, we're going to take a short break. You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff. I'm your host. I'm here today with Vicky Vollweiler, college planning expert, college funding and financial aid expert, founder of College Financial Prep, collegefinancialprep.com. Vicky and I are talking about the importance of including college in your divorce agreement. Short break, and we'll be right back. If you're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast, there's a good chance that you're facing divorce or that you and your ex are seriously considering it. But if you're having thoughts that there's a possibility your marriage might be able to be saved, marriage intensive therapy could be for you. Marriage intensive therapy is where you meet a therapist and you spend an entire weekend really sorting out issues so that you're not taking these breaks in between sessions. It's really, really an effective way if you really want to give it a shot and see if your marriage can work. Ann Cerny is a marriage intensive therapist, and she is wonderful. She's been doing this for over 20 years, and this concentrated multi-day approach is designed to give you an immersive experience, to give you a significant amount of progress in a short period of time. If you want to learn more about Ann or get in touch with her for a consult, you can find her at cernycoaching.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful divorce coach named Justin Milrad. So Justin is not only a divorced dad himself, but he is the co-founder of the nonprofit organization called the Blue Dove Foundation, which is dedicated to helping those with mental health and addiction issues. So what I'm telling you is, before Justin became a certified divorce coach, he had so much experience in the mental and emotional health arena. Plus, to top it all off, he's divorced, he's lived it, and he has kids. So if you want to learn more about working with Justin to help you through the challenges of your divorce, you can find Justin at reclaimandreboot.me or in the Trusted Professionals section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Do you have college in your divorce degree? Is there anything about college? That's what we're talking about today. My guest is Vicky Vollweiler, MBA, CDC, college funding and financial aid expert, and the founder of College Financial Prep, collegefinancialprep.com. And Vicky, we were going to get into the benefits. So tell the listeners what the benefits are of putting college into your divorce decree. And then after that, we'll talk about what it looks like. What about college should we put in our divorce degree?
So the important it's important to put it in there to minimize any potential future conflict and to get both parents onto the same page. So, at bare minimum, I always suggest that parents include whether you're working with a mediator, whether you're working with an attorney, include that both parents are going to participate in the financial aid applications when the schools request both parents. With the FAFSA application, it's just one parent's information that's needed. If that parent gets remarried, yes, it's going to be the new step parent too. That's a whole other story. Um, but
But I
sometimes,
love that you know all of these details because it could save people so much time and money.
definitely. Um, There's another financial aid form that's called the CSS profile. Um, it's mostly the popular schools, the ones that you see on everybody's sweatshirt or bumper stickers. Those are the schools in the main that want both parents' information. So it's important that both parents are willing to participate and provide that because otherwise, it's very likely that the child isn't going to get any financial aid. Yes, there are waivers that we can request, but actually, the circumstances to for having those waivers go through, they're far and few between. Candidly, like honestly, I just worked with somebody, awful situation, domestic violence. We were able to get the waiver to go through, so we didn't have to submit the other parent's information. But that's not going to happen all the time. So if both parents agree, both parents should know you're not going to see their financials, they're not going to see yours because that's a big thing. In 10 years, do you want to be sharing financial information? No, but you're only sharing it with the colleges. You're not sharing it with each other. So just getting on board that you're both going to
Well,
agree.
that's really important because when you get divorced, you become really, what's the
Sensitive.
word I'm looking like you just, don't it doesn't feel comfortable for your ex to see your financials because then they could think to themselves, well, why am I paying her
Right.
child support? She's making so much money. Then resentment creeps up. Or, oh, I didn't know that, he wasn't making this much. Now you feel guilty. So it's just better if you don't know, in my opinion.
Definitely. So yeah, but with the financial aid forms, you're not going to see each other's, but many people don't know that.
All right.
Um,
Now, Vicky, do you help people? Like when I filled out the FAFSA, it was the most complicated, confusing form I've ever had to fill out in my life. And I was like, "I never wanna do this again." And then I was like, "Oh, you have to do it every year." And I'm like, "What?" This
and
took
the
me.
CSS profile is worse.
So, you help people do you help really busy parents who are just like, "Look, I don't have 2 weeks to invest in this."
I help people with the applications. I help people with the hand holding. Some people just want the guidance and know that every I is dotted and T is crossed and the right number of zeros are put in or whatever it is. They want to make sure everything's correct. I help with the entire process. I'm there from the beginning to the end when parents want it. Um,
When my kids were going to college, all of us, my kids really didn't know how to look for scholarships. I was working 2 jobs. I didn't really have time to help them look for scholarships, and that's why, like, I really think people are listening to this and you're hiring all these divorce professionals, and if you have college kids, Vicky should be one of them, and your pricing is not exorbitant compared to what they're gonna get in return. It's a great ROI, so I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, now you also write another reason to put college in your divorce decree is to help with legal protection. Is that because when the time comes, if one parent says, like, I'm not paying, I can't afford this?
right. I mean, it's possible no matter when you get divorced, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Um, who's to say one parent, decides to get married and their new spouse says, "No, you don't need to contribute to that." Um, get everything in writing
By
that
the way, new spouses have a huge influence on the financial life of the ex wife. Just saying. So you have to really be careful. And that's why it's very important to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and everything in your decree.
Yeah, so definitely if you can both talk about college at the time of your divorce, and you're both on the same page. You want what's best for your children in college. Get it in there, get everything in there. Not every state is going to require that college is in your divorce degree. But regardless, if you and your spouse, your former spouse, are both on the same page, get it in there, even if the state doesn't require it.
Right. Good advice. All right. What does it look like to put college in your decree? Like, what are we talking about? Room and board, tuition, fees, books,
It could be
top,
what was the last thing you said?
laptop.
Right. It could
How
be
about like even decor for the dorm room?
definitely.
That was expensive.
Definitely. What about fraternity and sorority costs?
Mm.
What about traveling to and from the school? What if they decide to, go to a school, in a different geographic region in the country? Um, the cell phone costs. There's tuition insurance if some people want tuition insurance, dorm insurance. There were all types of costs that go with college.
And how about just the
Even
kids' living expenses while
right, right.
they're there? Mhm.
Um, and even before college, say for senior year, what about the cost to visit all the schools? What about the college application fees, the SAT exams or ACT exams, the cost to take the test, the cost to submit the scores, the cost for studying for preparation before if you go with tutors.
It
Lot,
all adds up
right.
quickly. Okay, for people listening, should they talk to their lawyer about this? Do all lawyers include college? From the lawyers you know, do most
Um,
include it or do they? Because mine didn't, said nothing.
So it's funny. So I'm in New York. I work with clients all over the country, all 50 states. But, physically I'm located in New York. And New York usually requires it in the doc they do take college into consideration. Yet, even in New York, it's not always in everybody's divorce decree. Sometimes it just says we will revisit it before the child goes to college. Now, what ends up happening is that all of a sudden 12th grade comes along and the child is applying to colleges. Um, one parent is all over it. The other parent is, being very cold and non-responsive. Um, the bill comes. They still don't know how they're splitting it, and one parent is kind of left hanging, and then usually, ends up having to go to court to try to do something then. That's why I'm saying it's so much easier to do it up front and put something into the divorce decree than the financial stress, the emotional stress of everything that happens senior year.
Because you have a leg to stand on even if things have changed. The person committed it to it before. And it's so interesting because I think these lawyers who say, "We will revisit it at another time," that's like saying, "Well, you're gonna have to hire me again in 5 years, and we're gonna have to go through," and when you hire a lawyer, you're minimally gonna spend $5,000 no matter what, even if it's like an easy process. So I want people listening to say, no, that's not acceptable. Let's put something about college in here now so that we have a chance where we won't have to do anything. And it's just nice to have it on paper. Even if the person says, my ex and I are amicable, he said he's going to pay for college. Put it in the decree. If he really means he's going to pay for college, he won't care if it's in the decree.
Right. So I've actually put together so on my website, I have an online store and what I created recently and I spoke with some of my divorce clients about it and like they loved it. They wished that they had it when I was working with them. So one of them is just a simple set of email templates to use throughout like the high school years to try to get on the same page for the parents that, don't have it written in from early on or, for people who are separating. Talking about what types of colleges do we want our child to apply to? Who's going to handle what? How much are we each paying? All things related to the college planning process.
Oh my gosh, Vicky, that is so smart. And we forgot to even talk about like health insurance. That
Okay.
costs a lot of money if you even if you can stay on your parents, but also colleges. I know, like, my son went to U of I, and there was this big thing that you had to opt out of, or you would get charged $800 a year for health insurance. And the
Definitely, the student can stay on their parents, that's ideal, and not have any of the health charges, but yeah, certainly you could get the health insurance through the college, but yeah, it's always extra.
Well, my advice to people is look at the bill, because one year we missed a semester and we had to pay $400 for insurance that we didn't even need. So,
And there are separate waivers that have to be filled
yeah,
out, I think, and sent to the health centers for that.
correct. Any final thoughts, Vicky? Any sage advice?
Always plan ahead, project college costs before applying to the colleges. The last thing I want to happen is that the students apply to all of their dream schools that they're considering, and they're all 90 or $100,000 a year, and the schools aren't known for giving money. I want to make sure that in addition to reach target and safety schools, there are also going to be some financially friendly options where the students will get, scholarships, whether it's merit aid, need-based aid. It's important to project beforehand.
And I love that advice, because don't you feel like these kids, they're only 16 and 17, and they're making these decisions based on, like, I got to go to the Big 10, and the Big 10 might not be the right school for you. Or, I got to do what my brother did because he went to U of I. I have to go to U of I. Or, they just don't know what's out there. And I think that parents are so busy that we don't know what's out there either. And that's another reason Vicky knows about all the schools. Well, not every single one, but you help pick schools for people too. Tell
Right,
them
'cause there are
or
certain
visit.
schools that will be friendlier for separated and divorced parents than others. And when I say friendlier, financially friendlier. So, yeah, it's important. The first step in saving money is applying to the right schools.
Love
Certainly.
it. Vicky, do you offer a free consult if people want to call you and then they're thinking about working with you?
Definitely. So on my website at www.collegefinancialprep.com, click the little button that says schedule a call, and everybody can do so there.
Thanks, Vicky. You're the best.
Thank you, Jackie. I appreciate it.
So if you want to learn more about Vicky, collegefinancialprep.com. You can also find her in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. You can also go to divorcedgirlsmiling.com to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.